Alright, now this is part two of the quad truck thing. Anyways, I started off with this old Chinese quad a friend gave me years ago, and it stopped running quite a few years ago, and it was always very unreliable. I ended up taking out the motor in it, but I wanted to retain some of the parts, mainly the variable speed belt drive and the forward reversing gearbox. So I remove all that and cut it in half, and I extend the swing arm here about 10 inches or so to get a little bit longer room on the back of it so I could put a truck bed on the back. And here I'm working on some frame rails to set up for the dumping truck bed. And I end up adapting a 7 horsepower side shaft motor to it and couple that with that original variable speed belt drive. And a few other little things, odds and ends, but that was pretty much part one, so let's get on to part two. Alright guys, my 14-inch throw linear actuator showed up. That's great, but here's the thing. I ordered it. This little kit here, it comes with linear actuator and the mount plates for it and some pins. But inside the box, there's none of the hardware. It only comes with this forward and reversing switch, which is fine, but I already ordered one. So I made these, not a big thing. I just had some salvage metal, so I made those. But it's kind of one of those things I was like, yeah, I'll just go the easy road, get the parts with it, and just weld them on. So, oh well. Just got this linear actuator on here. And we'll see how it does. I've never actually operated these before. When I first got out of the package, I kind of felt like it was a little on the cheap construction side. Kind of felt a little flimsy, but it seems to have pretty good power on here. I'm curious the durability of it. But one interesting thing is this is the maximum stroke. As it gets to the maximum stroke, there's a limit switch inside, so it shuts itself off, so it's not like just overloading the motor. And again, when it goes all the way down, it actually hits another limit switch. So tomorrow we'll put some extra weight on it and load it down and see what we think. Here's how far I am on the bed. Got some angle iron welded on down the sides here. Got these triangular brackets put on here. They came from a shipping crate. Here's the back ones. They're kind of open, so I'm going to put them something like this so I got room for a tailgate. Was going to originally make a stake side so I can have little pockets on here and slide the sides on, take it off and use it as a flatbed.
Knock out the fat. That's the most important about this machine. It knocks out the fat.
But it seems to complicate the build. I just kind of want to start using it, and I don't really see myself taking the sides off that often. So kind of want to get on with the build and start using it. One big pile of chipper shavings. Now we got all this beautiful grain exposed on here. It always looks good. This is all the wood from my bandsaw mill that I built. And I always see it rough cut, but it sure looks nice when you get it planed. Get to see all that grain. I'm not a big fan of the wood bed on this machine, the looks of it. Metal would look a little more modern or fitting for it, but you know, it's free. I had it around, and easy to replace if I break a board. But the bigger thing is actually, if I'm going to be moving tools around on here a lot, I think it would be nicer to have a wood bed. Stuff stays on the bed a lot easier. It doesn't slide around like it would on metal. And I do a lot of rock wall building and things like that, so I'll be loading and dropping heavy rocks in the back of here. And it's a lot quieter dropping onto this wood than it would be on, say, aluminum or steel. And I also don't have any steel or aluminum plating around here that I really want to use for this. So, yeah, that's why I'm going for wood. It's practical. I got it, and it works. So that's what we're doing. Alright, I was taking my little nephews for a ride on here, and it started making an awful sound. I shut the motor off within about 10 seconds of hearing the sound. And turned out this little nut back here, this little bolt actually, came loose and came up against the back of the teeth of the flywheel. So we're going to try to tighten that back down. I would recommend maybe if you get one of these motors, maybe check all the nuts and bolts, make sure they're all tight. We'll see if anything else falls off of this thing. So I made a bunch of these the other night. They're just made out of 3/8 of an inch rod. I put it in a vise and heated it and bent it over, cut them off, and I'm going to weld them on here for tie down straps so I can tie down tools or firewood onto the bed. And we'll put some more down here under the rails. So a friend gave me this last fall. It's been sitting around here. I need to clean it up. It's like a hitch rack that goes on the back of your vehicle and you put coolers and things like that. I'm not going to use it for its original purpose. I'm going to actually do is I have it just set on here right now. I'm going to actually cut it down so it's just the width of the wheels and fit it in place a little better. I still need a welded battery tray so I can put the battery up front. And I think it might be good to carry extra tools or chainsaw or even stack up firewood on it. So I unbolted the rack. It split in the center. And then I measured off 22 inches here. This is excess. I'm going to do the same on this one here. Let's cut it down right to here, 22 inches, and weld it back together. Might even use some of this scrap here for a little bit of a battery tray, because I definitely need to mount the battery somewhere up on the front of the quads. Well, it's been a few days since I cut down that rack, and I got a little time to work on it again. I actually need to use the quad for a little trip up to my cabin, so I need to mount the battery again, so I need to build a little spot to put the battery. I just cut these bars off of here. The idea is, once I have that rack on top, I'm going to mount the battery and slide it in from the side. And I'm going to cut down some of this leftover racking and make a nice little tray for the battery to sit in. Use the type of strap to hold it in there. And the idea I want to put the battery way up front is I want to put any extra weight I have on the front of this thing to weight the front tires down a bit more. It's a solid axle, so I assume if I put sand or gravel in the back, it's going to weight the solid axle down enough to where it's going to scrub the tires pretty good. So any extra weight I can add up front, it's going to benefit the steering. So we'll get going on this next. So here's a little battery tray I welded up. Should hold the battery nicely below the rack. Today we're going to take this rack and weld it on the front of the quad, so we'll get started on that next here. Alright, now that I got the back part welded to the frame back here, and I kind of got the rack leveled where I want it to be both ways, I'm going to work on doing some type of framework. I have a few of these bars laying around with some curves. They were actually part of a golf cart roof that a friend had. He was parting out. I cut some of the bars off of it. Might do something along the lines like this to add some strength out on the ends if I have a lot of firewood on here. I'm not sure. I gotta still turn the wheels and see where the tires come and make sure I got clearance on all that stuff. So I'll mock this up and we'll get welding. Got that rack all welded on. Those really strengthen the front end really well. That thing's solid. Get the battery mounted down there. I think these locations right here look really nice with some LED headlights. And I think I got some sheets of aluminum. I think I'm going to cut some aluminum fenders that come over here and drop down. Maybe some mud flaps on the back. I'm not sure, but aluminum front fenders I think would be nice. Keep the mud off. So I just remembered a friend gave me some LED headlights a little while back. I just got them temporarily clamped from the rack here. They were on a truck that he had. He bought. He didn't want them on it anymore. So they do put out a lot of light. I just set these on just to kind of get a look for it. But I do like the look of round headlights, and I do have some brand new round ones I bought on Amazon for like 15 or 20 bucks. I might use those, but should be a good location for some headlights. I had to get out one of my new round ones and place it on here. I think I like the look of the round more. I think I'll use the square for utility lights in the back for working on stuff. So far this thing's been working great for hauling firewood to my woodshed. I have to still do a tow hitch on the back here pretty soon. That'll be probably that, and the front fenders would be some of the next things. I'm going to weld down some bars here, put a little tow hitch so I can move that splitter that I built. So it's been working really well. Alright you guys, it's been a little while since I've done any work with the quad truck. It's been working great, so I've been using it for hauling firewood and everything, and then my side project's been this KDX 200 motorcycle over here I've been working on. But anyways, this wooden bed's worked great. I oiled it to preserve it, but I leave it out in the rain sometimes. I live in the Northwest, it gets wet, and this happened. The wood swelled, buckled, ripped all the actual self-tappers off of the bed, and that's just not gonna fly. That's not gonna work for me, so I'm gonna pull all that off. I bought some aluminum for my work, some sheets of used aluminum, and I'm gonna hook up the spool gun. I've made an adapter to run a Miller spool gun on my welder, so we're gonna see if that works and get welding this bed. Well, here's some of the aluminum I recycled from my work. Got them for about $5 a sheet. It's 1/8 inch thick, 14 inches wide, and about 5 to 5.5 feet long. I'm going to be cutting them off today with the metal cutting circular saw, and yeah, I'll bring you guys back in a little bit when I get most of these plates cut for the bed. Well, got all the aluminum cut for the bed. Now to start working on cutting the sides. As you know, I got this Vulcan welder kind of a month and a half ago, something like that, and kind of want to get the spool gun. When I went to order it, it was out of stock at the time, so a friend had an extra Miller spool gun here, and he loaned that to me, and I made this adapter. It comes off the power lead here, runs into this, turns some aluminum down on my lathe, put this gas line on here, and the Miller lead is bigger diameter by like a few millimeters than the Vulcan, so I made this adapter, and I'm able to load some aluminum, so I just got it hooked up on here. So it's pretty nice to actually be able to put aluminum together now. There we go. Alright, got the aluminum bed all welded up on here. I still have to put on these brackets for the tailgate here and cut a piece of aluminum for the tailgate. And I'm also going to, I think, make some aluminum front fenders and drop down kind of mud flap style fenders. And my buddy Dave gave me a seat off of an old quad that I'm going to have to cut down and adapt for the seat, but it's coming along pretty well. I think this thing's getting a lot closer to nearing the end here. Working on front fenders next. I was kind of looking over the front of the quad and kind of determined this angle looked nice. I'm not sure the degrees yet, I haven't measured it, but got that locked in there, and the way it's going to mount is this flat plate's going to sit underneath the front rack. This is going to be the drop down on the front next to the headlights, and this is a little wider piece for the back. The drop down back to keep some mud off of me. So anyways, I'm going to spot weld these together, or just tack weld them together real quick, and I'll show you what they look like. Let's get started. Alright, there's one of the two fenders. I got them both welded up, and this would be the back side. This side is going to go right up over here, and I got this one set over here. I will lift it up. It's going to sit on here something like this. Probably come out a little bit, and I might even do some type of drop down trim along the edges here, like a 1 inch. We'll see if I want to do that or not, but pretty happy. I think this is gonna be good. Alright you guys, got the fenders, the front fenders finished. I didn't do many updates on building. I was kind of on a roll and just kind of kept moving through, but I have to say it is awesome to be able to finally weld aluminum. I've worked with aluminum for a long time, bent it, pop riveted it, bolted it together, but it's so nice to actually be able to weld it together. And anyways, I went through and just welded them on the insides where I wanted them to be welded at the right angles. Once I got them welded and solid, I went through and just ran a bead down all the seams and then just sanded them down with an angle grinder, a little bit more kind of a body work at the end. But this isn't the best view of them tonight, but they're going to mount something like this on the front. And I'll show another video tomorrow when I get some hardware to mount them, but I think they're going to be pretty good. Got the fenders mounted up on here. I ended up doing a little more work to them. I ended up matching the bevel on the inside of the fenders here, front and back. I'll tell you what, it is so nice to finally have the tools to be able to put together aluminum. I've wanted to be able to weld it for a long time, never had the right setup. Getting that new welder was a big game changer here. It's definitely going to make putting together skid plates and things like that for motorcycles a piece of cake. But anyways, I'm determining what color I want to paint it, and my buddy Dave has powder coating set up at his place, so I might pull the fenders and powder coat them, and getting pretty close to finishing this thing up. I need to make an aluminum guard for down here for the belts, just kind of protect your feet and just cover that stuff up and keep water off of it. So, all right, another win. Got a 2-inch ball welded on here. Got this 1/2 inch square tubing coming off the main frame up here, and did some 45s out of angle iron coming up to the other part of the frame. So this should be completely adequate for towing anything this thing can pull. A friend gave me this quad seat. Came off of one of his Hondas. Seat cover is really ripped up. Pulled that off. Only has one little spot of foam I need to patch in here where it's torn out. Cut it down last night for the back and cut the front off a little bit. Still need around the corners. But it's nice, it's a plastic seat pan, so it's easy to heat and mold and cut and modify. So I got it sitting on here pretty well. I need to weld a few tabs down here to mount it on the back. Got the front so it slides underneath a little bar and locks it in place. So I'm going to go buy some pleather for it and hopefully reupholster it soon.
Well, we got the Gimp. I think the Gimp's sleeping. Well, I guess you just have to go wake him up now, won't you?
Alright, we got some pleather.
100% polyurethane that looks like the real thing but costs a lot less. Kmart's leather look jackets. The excitement's there, but not the price.
Alright, now we're back from the little words from our sponsors right there. Anyways, we got some pleather on here. Stapled on the back, stapled on the front. I'm going to be warming this up by the wood stove and stretching it out on the sides and stapling on the bottom. I'll show you a few little shots of that, and we'll show you a finished product of the seat, so stick around. Because that was just a piece of pleather, it was not a fitted seat cover. It took a little bit more work to get it stretched into place, but there's the bottom, there's the top. Only problem is when I put on the quad, it might develop a little bit of a wrinkle because it's forced back a little bit. But anyways, that's as good as I can get with that sheet of pleather. If you are doing a seat cover, it's a lot easier with fitted ones for specific motorcycles, but that chunk of pleather is like 12 bucks. I got enough to do another seat. And if you're going to do a motorbike, just buy the right seat cover for it. But this was kind of a hack job, so it worked out fine. But if you're going to attempt this on a plastic seat pan, don't even bother until you got a pneumatic staple gun. You can pick these up at Harbor Freight for like 20 bucks. It's pretty much the only thing that'll go into this plastic. Handheld ones won't do it. I got another video coming up pretty soon on my KDX, a little restoration on my KDX trail bike. And I show a little more about upholstering seats in that video. So stick around, check that video out as well. We'll get this thing fitted now. Well, okay. That's definitely a lot better, a little more respectable seat on this thing now. Hell of a lot better than the Mexican blanket I had folded up on here in the first video. Should be a lot more comfortable too. Pretty happy way that turned out. I'd like to make a special thanks in this video for my buddy Dave. He's been a great friend of mine for years and years now, and he's always there to give me a helping hand or a good suggestion. He's hooked me up with metal on previous projects and tools along the way. He was the one that loaned me the spool gun to dap my gun over, or my welder over to weld aluminum. And a day or two later he shows up. I only had a tiny argon bottle. He shows up with a big argon bottle for me to use. So anyways, I appreciate it, Dave, and thanks a lot. Well, as much as I was hoping to finish up this project on part 2, I think it's going to have to trickle over to a part 3. The video is about 20 minutes long. That's about my cutoff for video length. So anyways, for you that watch the whole thing, thanks for checking it out. And check out some of my other projects. Hit like and subscribe as well. But yeah, we got a lot done. I took kind of a break between part 1 and part 2 on working on this project, and just in the last week or two I've really picked it back up and started doing the welding of aluminum fenders and things like that. Next video will for sure be powder coating this. I'll go over the steps a little bit for some of you that haven't powder coated before. Finish up the rails on here because they're pretty sharp edges still. Do some tie down rails on here. Do a tailgate. Weld a guard for this thing, a few other things like that, and some toggle switches, kind of finish off a little dash area up here. Maybe a toolbox under the bed, things like that. So appreciate you guys watching the video, and like I said, hit like and subscribe. Thanks again. See you guys.